What does it take to actually change your life, to get out of your own way and make your dreams a reality? Well, I turned my life into an experiment because I'm on a mission to find that out. Day one of this experiment, let's do it. So far, my 20s have been
kind of show.
And that's okay. I know life doesn't go to plan, but I've just gotten to the point where I am so tired of getting in my own way and making excuses and playing small when I know there's so much more out there for me and I can't do it anymore. So in this 1-year experiment, I'm going to see how far I can get from where I am now, where I'm living with my parents, I'm basically broke, and I'm working a job as a freelance translator that I don't really love, to my biggest goals of moving into my dream apartment, consistently earning $20,000 a month because we're aiming big here and I don't want to live in survival mode anymore, and starting a successful podcast that a year from now has 100,000 downloads or more. I can't lie, I'm really nervous, and I've definitely seen other videos like this, but a lot of people end up not following through.
Myself included.
The truth is, this is my 3rd time already trying to do this experiment, so I really want to understand what actually works when it comes to sustainable change and reaching enormous goals that feel so far away right now. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down why I'm doing this experiment. I'm also going to talk about the structure of it, how I'm breaking it down, my 3 main priorities and how you can set those. And then I'll talk about the first steps that I'm taking and how I plan to set myself up for success. So for some background and why I feel the need to share my journey in the first place, I'm Millie, and it's definitely been a roller coaster throughout my 20s. And I've struggled a lot. I've struggled with debilitating depression, PTSD, SA multiple times, ADHD. On the other hand, I've had some really high highs during my 20s. Like, I've manifested huge visions, like becoming a digital nomad and starting a swimwear business, which I no longer have, but that's beside the point. And even getting my master's degree at the University of Cambridge, which is something I never ever would have thought would be possible for me. I definitely was not the perfect straight A student in school. But the thing is, even though I manifested big things, I didn't create sustainable change in my life. So aside from reaching these big goals and using this experiment to give it some structure and hold myself accountable, I wanted to prove both to myself and to others, I guess, that it's possible to change your life no matter what your circumstances are and no matter what you've been through. Because I've been in the place for a long time where I felt stuck and behind and feeling so much shame for where I am in life. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to share this, because I realized as long as I feel shame around where I live, around my finances, not only am I perpetuating that for myself, but I'm perpetuating that in the world as well. And I don't want other people to give themselves a hard time for the fact that life happens. It doesn't go to plan. And I also wouldn't want anyone else to get their worth from money or their career. We're so much more than that. But I feel like I hadn't heard a lot of stories where people like me took some time just to recover and heal. For context, in my early 20s, I got my first 9-to-5 job. I was a medical interpreter for Spanish speakers, but I really hated being stuck in one place, and I had this vision of me on a beach in Croatia wearing this red one-piece swimsuit. It's super specific. But I quit my job, decided to only take remote work, and made that vision come to life. I became my own boss as a freelancer. I learned how to sew and created that swimsuit and made that all a reality. Then the pandemic hit. Everything came to a grinding halt. My entire lifestyle that I had spent years building ended overnight. And to find a way to move forward, I decided to go back to school to get my master's in business and entrepreneurship, and I ended up moving to Cambridge. But then I dealt with SA from another student. So after that happened, I ended up having a huge mental breakdown, dropping out of my program to take a year-long medical intermission and hardly being able to function. Eventually I moved back to Cambridge. I got in a toxic relationship, and even though on the outside I was going to this amazing school, on the inside I never felt more horrible. Now, I graduated over a year ago, and I've just been recovering and coming back to myself in that time. And as much as I wanted to change my life, I wasn't ready. I've done a lot of work to understand why. I've done a lot of therapy and self development work, gotten into breath work and meditation, nervous system regulation. And so I just wanted to name all of those things. Even though this is about reaching huge goals and changing your life, I want to do it in a way that feels good and right, and name that if you're not there, it's okay. I've taken years to just heal and feel ready to actually take these action steps. Okay, let's get to the experiment structure already. The way I'm setting this up. So, first of all, we have our timeline, which is 1 year from today, April 3rd, 2025, until next year, April 3rd, 2026. Then, as you have in any experiment, I have a research question, but since this is not a typical experiment, I also don't have a typical question. Basically, I just have things I want to find out, and that's understanding the how behind getting unstuck and into action, goal achievement, and sustainable change. And I especially want to understand what it takes to reach your goals and get unstuck after trauma or mental health struggles, because so many of us face those, but I feel like it's not really put into the equation of goal achievement too often, even though it has such a huge effect on it. Then we get into how I'm going to answer that research question. So, first off, it will be through myself, treating myself as the test subject, and studying myself as I go after my 3 main priorities. And the way that I'm going to do that is I will track myself daily and the progress that I make toward those 3 main priorities. I will also set weekly goal targets and see how I'm progressing on those. And I will do weekly updates here on YouTube. I'll maybe also share to social media and to my website, but we'll see. I don't want to bite off more than I can chew to begin with. And I have kind of a complicated relationship with social media where I feel torn about doing it just because I feel like I have to. Let me know if you understand. But if you want to see this on social media, tell me and I will do my best. The other way I will learn is from others. So one of my goals, like I mentioned, is to start a successful podcast. And I plan to bring on people who have either achieved some or all of what I want and ask them how to do it, really get into the nitty gritty. Then I will implement their suggestions to my experiment. I'll also learn from books, podcasts, etc. And really, the goal behind all of this is to track and get an understanding of what actually works when it comes to sustainable change. Now let's move on to my main 3 priorities, which I've set up based on the way that was recommended in this book, Be Your Future Self Now by Dr. Benjamin Hardy, which is an amazing self-development book, and I've read so many. This is the best one, hands down. So if you read one book for self-development, this is the one, and I've applied so much of what I've learned in this book to how I've structured this experiment. So he talks about your main 3 priorities, which are the areas of your life that you basically most want for your future self, and that will most set them up for success. And then within those main 3 priorities, you set really big goals. And the reason that I'm doing the 3 priorities method is because we often have way too many priorities, too many competing priorities, and we get distracted and we end up not doing them. So when I see a lot of like glow up or change your life videos, it's for like every aspect of life. I'm going to focus on 3 main areas and trust that everything else will grow alongside that. Kind of like a liberal arts degree, you know, where you like have your one main major, but then you're learning so much in addition to that. And I just want to make sure that I'm not trying to do too much to the point where I get confused and forget what I'm working toward. There's even a quote from Jim Collins, I think, in the book Good to Great that says, if you have more than 3 priorities, you have none. So my 3 main priorities are finances, lifestyle, and business, or brand, business and brand. And then within those, you set really big goals. So under finances, I have my 20K per month goal. That's for a year from now, or even further out potentially. Then I have for lifestyle to move into my dream apartment, although I'm keeping that one kind of open. One of my goals throughout this year is to travel as I build my brand and reach my goals. So if I want to keep traveling at that point, maybe the goal instead will be to get my first investment property. And then under business or brand, I have my goal of reaching 100,000 podcast downloads. Now here's where I'm adding my own sort of design to this, because I have those big goals set, but those are further out in the future, and there are obviously a lot of steps to get there, and it can be so easy to get in your head about the how and try to figure out the entire plan. But the way that I've manifested before, I just took the first steps in faith, and then everything else came together after that in ways that I couldn't have planned. Even though that's really hard to do, I'm leaning into that again. So I'm setting the big goal, but right now, I'm starting with what I know, or whatever I can think of that I can do right now. So under finances, that also will include focusing on my money mindset really, really heavily, because I very much believe in the energetics of that and have experienced that in my life in terms of like getting a big translation job right after I had a huge energetic shift about my money mindset. So that is a huge thing I'm going to focus on. Another more immediate goal I've set is to earn $4,000 this month solely through freelancing, through being my own boss. Investing is also a priority, and then I could break that up further into learning about investing, starting to auto invest, setting investing goals and a strategy. I even invested in an investing course, so that all goes under finances. Then for lifestyle, I have my big goal, but right now the idea is to start living as a digital nomad again as soon as possible. Like next month. That is my goal. I really want to just book a ticket to Europe and go from there. So that means the next steps from there could be to book the flight. And also, I know that I want to take a trip over my birthday in July to Bali and do like a group trip, so I could put down the deposit for that trip to say, this is the future that I'm securing for myself. I am committing to that future. Another thing for lifestyle is I've been kind of a hermit and I want to get out and have more fun. So this could be like going to free events. It doesn't have to cost anything and I don't have to wait till I travel. I can start now. It could be like doing a yoga class or whatever. Then we have business or brand. And this one is the least clear to me other than the podcast. So I know I'm going to start there. And outside of that, I'm going to experiment with different business ideas that I have. So I run this community, for example, on Meetup called Manifestation Besties. Recently has grown to over 200 members, but I want to do so much better leading it. I want to do even more and grow it. And I think there could be potential for that community to become something more. I don't know, but that's one place where I'm going to be experimenting. Maybe I could do paid events. I don't know. Another thing I'll experiment with is like I used to sew swimwear and I had this swimwear business. I've stopped doing that, but I started working with a manufacturer a while ago and I want to sew some of the swimsuits that my manufacturer is making for me and wear those on my travels. And then if people are interested, I can potentially develop that into a business. I also have this idea for like a multicultural fashion marketplace, and that's something that I can build on the side while I travel as well. So basically, I'm experimenting with all of these different ideas and giving myself the opportunity to have lots of different things work out or to let things come together the way that they're supposed to. Not trying to force any one thing right now, but just experiment. Lastly, I wanted to tell you about the first steps I'm taking and how I plan to set myself up for success. I think it's really great when you set goals like this, even if you're not doing the experiment thing like me, to have a main focus. And for me, those are consistency and growth over time. So especially at the beginning, I'm focused on just being really consistent, showing myself that I can do that and I can keep my word, and growth over time. So I'm basically hacking my brain and getting it more excited about seeing the growth and going, wow, look how much better I've gotten, instead of focusing on the external results like numbers and figures. Those are the same thing. But anyway, you get the idea. Now, the first steps I'm taking, I'm going to record and edit 2 to 3 YouTube videos before I launch them. And this isn't a way of like pushing things back. I'm giving myself a 2-week deadline to prepare those 2 to 3 videos, but I'm trying to meet somewhere in the middle between like over preparing and not preparing at all. So I think having a 2-week interval between studying myself and collecting the information and putting it out there is a good amount of time. So I'm giving myself 2 weeks to get this video and 1 or 2 others ready, and then I'll launch. I'm doing the same thing with my podcast. I have 1 episode ready to go, another one I need to edit, and I want to prepare 1 to 2 more before I launch that. But I do want to launch the podcast within month 1 of the experiment. I'm not going to push it off forever this time. I'll also focus on my mindset every day, on daily tracking for the experiment. So I'll be tracking what steps I'm taking in each of those 3 priorities every day. And a way that I've set myself up for success on that front is I've literally just written those 3 priorities on a little sticky note and attached that to my monitor. So every day I look at it and I know what I'm working toward. And then, of course, I'll take some other action steps toward those 3 priorities, like potentially booking travel related things, maybe making some of those swimsuits so that they're ready to go for the trip. Maybe I'll get vaccines and further commit to that being the future that I am going to have. Another thing I'm tracking is just like the thoughts I have and how I feel in my body every day. And this is related to the nervous system regulation. It's something I did in the first iteration of the experiment that was hugely helpful because when I looked back over what I thought and did throughout the week, I could see so clearly what I was thinking before I had a mental breakdown, or what I was thinking and doing before I felt really good. It's really amazing when you start to see those patterns and you can stop yourself from getting to the mental breakdown point, because I could also see which part of myself was coming up and give that version of myself love and support so that we could move forward together instead of letting those negative thoughts just run wild. All right, so that is the plan for the experiment. We'll see where I am a year from now, but check back in next week and I'll fill you in on how the first week went. Now, let's go change our lives together. Thank you for watching. Bye.